Hello, welcome back. And seeing as Egg Hunt seems to be in full swing, I thought we would go ahead and try and make our own Egg Hunt game over here. So we've got some eggs, round map, and you can go and click collect, and they get added to your inventory along the top. And we can collect them like so. If this is something you'd like to have a go at making, then keep watching and I'll show you how I made it. So to start off, we're going to need to add in some eggs. Now, I'm just going to use the command down here and use the insert service. And I've already typed this out before. So I'm going to use the egg from 2014 and press enter here and add it into the workspace. And I think it's locked, so we unlock it and we can move it around. And it puts it inside a model. And it makes it a hat. We don't need the hat, so we can get rid of the hat. And there we have is the egg. Now, obviously, we're not going to use these default Roblox textures, as that would be a bit boring. So let's see if we can add our own. So if we get the mesh here, and we see where it says texture ID, what we can do is we can add in our own texture. So I'm going to open up the toolbox, go to images, and I'm just going to type in texture and see what comes up. Okay, this one looks quite cool. So I'm going to copy the asset ID and then go with texture ID and paste that in. And then we've got this cool kind of, I don't know what you'd call this, like a floral design, gold and red. It looks very cool, quite ancient looking as well. Maybe we'll call this the ancient egg. And so let's go ahead and add in some more eggs. Okay, so I've gone and got 7 groovy looking eggs now. We've got our ancient egg, our tribal egg, our bumblebee egg, our hallucination egg, rock egg, aqua egg, and camo egg. So now we've got our eggs, we need a way for the player to interact with them. Now a billboard GUI allows you to place GUI elements within the 3D game world. So you see I've got billboard GUI, and then I can add in a button, for example, a text button, and it looks like that. Although obviously it's slightly inside of the part at the moment, so let's raise it up. We can offset the world space. Let's try raise it by 3 pixels, and it'll appear above, or maybe just 2 will be fine, and it'll appear above the egg like so. Now the problem we have here is if we want our button to be able to detect when the local player presses the button and clicks it, then we need to run on the client. So we need to place our button down in the starter GUI in order for this to work. So I'll finish styling this GUI and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, that's our GUI looking a bit nicer now, a bit cleaner. And as I was saying, we need to be able to click the button. It's not going to work if we're just trying to click inside of the part. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the egg GUI and we're going to place it down inside server storage. And then we'll add a script inside server script service. And before we do that, we're going to add in a folder into the workspace. Add in a folder, and we'll call this folder eggs. And we'll put all of the eggs, not the base plate, all the eggs inside the eggs folder. So that allows us to manage them a bit easier. And we might as well anchor them while we're here. And then we'll go into our server script and we'll name this one egg setup script. And what we want to do is we want to clone this billboard GUI into each of the eggs. Now how we do that is using the adornee property, and when you set the adornee to a part, then it becomes the UI for that part. So what we're going to do in our script is we'll open up, we'll delete hello world, and the first thing we're going to do is create a variable for that GUI we just created. So we say local egg GUI equals game.serverstorage.eggGUI, and then we're going to create a variable for the eggs folder. So that will be local eggs equals workspace.eggs. And then what we need to do is loop through each of those eggs. So we'll create a for loop. We'll say for I, which will be the number of times it loops through, and the second will be eggs, or egg, in pairs, and then we're going to create a table from the eggs. So eggs, that variable, which is everything contained in this folder, eggs, get children, and this function will get every item contained within the eggs folder. and then it'll loop through them all. We say do, and then for each egg, it will be repeated. So now the egg is equal to each one of these. And then what we want to do is we want to add in that GUI. So we're going to say local new GUI equals egg GUI colon clone. So we create a new one. And then we want the new GUI's Adorny to be equal to that egg. And then rather than them all just being called egg GUI, which is its default name, what we could actually do is we could set its name to be equal to the name of the egg. So equal to egg.name. So we'll have the GUI named ancient egg, aqua egg, bumblebee egg, and so on. And then finally, we need to set a parent for the new GUI. So new GUI.parent will be equal to the starter GUI. So we say game, and we could use, probably you should be using GetService really. GetService starter GUI. And we could change these to services as well. Super, so now if we go and we run the game, we should hopefully see the GUI hovering above each of the eggs. Now we need to actually be able to use that button. So inside of the button, we'll add in a local script. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable for the button itself. So we say local button equals script.parent. That will just make it a bit easier to access. And then we'll create a variable for the player. So local player will be equal to game.players.localPlayer, since it's a local script. And what I want to do is when the player clicks the button, I want the egg to disappear. So I'll create a function, I'll say button dot mouse button one click connect, and we can just use an anonymous function, which means we don't give it an actual name, just like that. And now we need to access the egg. So actually let's create a new variable at the top here, and we can say local egg equals, and we know the egg is equal to the GUI's Adorny, which we set in the other script. So I can make this equal to button.parent.Adorny. So then we'll say egg dot transparency equals 1, egg dot can collide equals false, and finally let's disable this GUI as well. So we'll say button.parent.enabled equals false. So hopefully now when we go and we join the game, we can go up to this egg, we can click collect and it will disappear, and we can click all of them and they're all going to disappear. And the good thing about this is because we're doing it on the local client, if we're back on the server, all the eggs are still going to be visible, so another player can still come along and collect them. Now we just need a way for the player to actually keep track of which eggs they found, so I think it'd be quite nice if we could have some UI along the top here maybe. So what I'm going to do is we're going to add in another GUI, add in a frame, and I'm going to position this so it's in the center. We'll change the anchor point to 0.5, size 0.8 of the width, using scale of course, and position we want it to be 0.5 in scale, so it's perfectly halfway. And then height, I'm alright using an offset value, which is just pixels. Let's try maybe 50, or maybe 100's alright. And I want to display each egg that the player finds inside this box, or this frame rather. Now we could do this using decals, but I think it would actually make sense to make use of the Viewport frames, which allows to display the object itself within the GUI. So we actually could do this inside of a script as well. So I'll add in another local script, and I want to create a Viewport frame for each of the eggs. So I'm going to write another for loop, and we'll say for I equals 1, hashtag eggs do, and then we'll create a loop, and of course hashtag eggs will be equal to workspace dot eggs colon get children. local eggs equal. So eggs is a table, and then hashtag eggs is just the length of that table. So we'll start by creating a viewport frame, local viewport frame equals instance.new viewport frame. And then we can start to add some properties to it. And of course we use the udim2 value, which stands for universal dimension, and it's 2 lots of them. So this takes 4 values in total: x offset, x scale, y offset, and y scale. So let's try for now just making it 100 by 100 in offset. So we're not going to use the scale. So actually we've done this the wrong way around. We want it to be 0, 100, 0, 100, like so. And then let's make the position, and we'll just set this to 0 to the 0 point, shall we? Next we'll change the background transparency, and we'll make it fully transparent, and we'll also disable the borders. So I think it's border size pixel we'll set to 0. And we might as well give it a name as well. And in the same guise as that other script, we can use the name of each egg. So we can just say equals the eggs table, and then we want a value from that table. We do that using the square brackets, and I can use the I to get the value of the loop rule inside. So the first time round, I'll be equal to 1, and so it'll get the first item from the eggs table. And then the second time, I will be equal to 2, and so we'll get the second value from the eggs table. Finally, we just need to create a parent for it, and so we'll make viewport frame dot parent equal to, and seeing as the local script is contained inside the frame, we'll just use that as the parent. So we'll say script.parent. Now, in order for a object to display in a viewport frame, you actually need to make you actually need to put it inside that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a clone of each of the eggs. Local egg clone, we'll call it, equals the eggs table again, I, so the current egg from that loop, colon clone. And so then we can make this egg clone dot parent equal to the viewport frame. And before we do that, we actually need to set a position for it as well. Because we're going to place these eggs around the map, we might as well make the clone that we're going to make, we'll set its position to be the origin point again, so that will be vector3.new 0, 0, 0, nice and easy. And then one last thing we want to do, so we can actually see that item, is we're going to need to create a camera object. So we can call this one viewport camera, local viewport camera, or we could just name the camera, but this will be makes a bit more sense, equals instance.new camera, and then we say viewport frame dot current camera equals the camera object that we just created, so viewport camera. Then we need to set a position for it, so we can say viewport camera dot cframe, coordinated frame. It's a combination of both a position and rotation, among other things. And we'll set that equal to a new cframe, cframe.new, which will be comprised of both the object itself, which is egg clone, and also the offset we want to give it. So vector3, and we want it to be pretty much looking directly at the egg. So we don't want the x value to be different. The y value we can maybe leave as it is, but the z value, which would be how far away we are, we'll try just putting ourselves 3 studs away. And finally, we just need to set the parent for viewport camera. So viewport camera dot parent will also be equal to viewport frame. Oh, and of course here we actually need to make this so it's actually set to the eggClone.position. So let's run that and see if that's working. Oh, we've got an error here. Local script line 9 bag argument string expected got object. So let's go and look on line 9, see if we can see anything that's wrong. Okay, line 9 viewport frame dot name. Okay, so it's expecting the string for the name, and we've given it an object, which is the egg itself. What we meant to say is eggs I, which is the eggs object, and say the name of that egg. So let's go ahead and run that again. Have we got any errors this time? Oh, we've got a new error now. On line 19, attempt to call a table value. So let's go back, check what that error is about. Line 19. Egg clone dot position. What we need to do is we've said vector3 just the class. We need to say vector3 dot new. So we're actually creating a new vector. And now we'll try and run. We have set it the wrong way around though. We want the vector3 to be first, followed by the position. And there we go, we've got our egg. Now the other eggs have all appeared, but they're all in the exact same position of it. So if we go inside our player GUI now, we will see we've got all of these. Which one is it? This one. We've got all of these eggs in here, but they're all behind each other. So if I select the ancient egg, for example, and I could go down to the Z index, and I could set this to 10, and then that egg would appear over the top. So what we want to do is we want to space out these eggs so they fill this bar. To do this, I'm going to create another variable at the top of the loop, local relative size, we're going to call it. And we're going to make that equal to 1/7 of the size of the frame. So we've got 7 eggs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we want them to fit neatly into the size. Now, if I go on to the frame here, you'll notice the size we set to scale, so it's just 0.8 of the screen or 80% of the screen. But if we scroll up to the top, you'll see there's an absolute size as well, which is what 0.8 of my screen here ends up equaling 1156 pixels. So we can make that equal to script.parent.absolute size, and then we can say .x, which will be that value we just talked about, 1156. I want to divide that by 7. Then for its size value, instead of making it 100 pixels wide, we'll make it equal to the relative size. And then down here for its position, we need to shift it along by a couple of pixels each time. So we can do this in the calculation by saying relative size, and we can multiply that using the asterisk by the value of I. Now the first time I is actually going to be equal to 1, and that would mean that the first one we created would be a few pixels in. I'll tell you what, I'll run it first and then you can see what I mean. So if we run the game, we're now going to end up with an extra few pixels along, which is not what we want. So the final one ends up being outside the box. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing it just multiplied by I, we're going to say, we'll say I minus 1. So the first time it's going to be relative size times 0, which is perfect. And then we'll just put some brackets around it. It's BODMAS basically. And then if we run that now, we'll end up with them all perfectly lined up within the box. Super. And I think we might as well change the frame a bit so it looks a bit prettier, making sure to set the background transparency of that frame to 1 to make it look a bit nicer. And then inside our script, instead of the viewport being nice and bright, we can use the color 3 property. So we can say viewport frame dot color image color 3, sorry. And we can set that equal to color3.new 000, which will be black. So when we play now, we should hopefully see completely black eggs. There we go, they're all completely grayed out. And then when we collect them, we can make the script light them up. So now I'm back inside the script for the text button. And then down here on the last line, we can say player.player GUI. And I think currently the GUI is just called screen GUI. So let's rename this to egg tracker. That will do. And we can say player GUI.egg tracker.frame. And then we want to get the name of the egg. Now we don't actually know the name of the egg at this point, seeing as we've just got one script that we've got for all of them. So what we can do is we can use the square brackets, which allow you to type in a string. So if you typed in a string such as the rock egg, then you would get the rock egg. It's just another way of using addressing to the dots. But since we don't know the string, what we can do is we can use this egg variable we created up here, and we can copy that in and we can say egg.name. So egg.name will be equal to a string of that name, and then we want to change the image color 3. Image color 3 equals color3.new, and this time we want it to be bright, so we say 111. This is a decimal value between 0 and 1, obviously with 0 being dark and 1 being the brightest. So we'll go ahead and play that now. And hopefully we should see all grayed out eggs along the top, and then when we click each of these, they're going to each light up in turn. Fantastic. Next we just need to add a bit of a map so we can actually go and get these eggs. And there we have it. Our custom egg hunt is complete. We've got our map, we've got our eggs, and we've got a little bit of a game. Now if this is something you'd like to see me expand on more, then we could add to it and maybe expand it into a fully, properly fledged game. But for now, thank you for watching. If you found it useful, then please like, comment below, let me know, and we'll do another video. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.